Of February, in the middle of the Big East season. It was an awful, strange time for Rutgers to be playing South Florida, especially here rather than down there. But at Piscataway tonight, Knights had no problems, at least, in posting an easy victory by the score of 65-50. So Rutgers followers see their team go over the 500 mark at 11-10. Middletown, New Jersey native Jeff Billett here, driving and feeds Earl Johnson of Portchester, New York. Pretty reverse layup. He had 13 points, game tied early. FDU grad Seth Greenberg saw his USF team trail only by 4 at halftime. In the second half, Rutgers on the break, but Brian Lamb steals the ball, goes behind his back. Nice spin move for the layup. Game was tied at 28. Then RU took over. Terry Mills led all scorers with 18 points, hits the three-pointer, puts Rutgers ahead for good at 41-39. Later on, Rob Hodgson out of Mastic Beach, Long Island, drives and hits the layup. He had 10 points as Rutgers goes on to post the victory, while USF shot 1 for 19 for three-point territory. You want to know how they lost it? That was it. Now, a couple games in the MAC tonight.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Rutgers Basketball Weekly. Sitting in for Bruce Beck, I'm Rob Kennedy, and joined as always on the show by the head coach of the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, Bob Wenzel. Glad to be with you, Coach.
I'm welcoming you to the show. We go way back, and Bruce Beck is in Florida trying to win a free throw shooting contest. Can you imagine that? And
well,
we're here in his stead.
Well, I tell you what, it's nice weather here back in the Northeast as well, and I told you yesterday, I hope you're in shape. You're going to be carrying me all show.
I'm sure you'll do great, Rob.
Well, coming off a 4-game homestand, your team's playing well. You got 2 big wins, back-to-back double-digit wins, and then you stumbled a little bit against St. John's, but I think you have to be real happy with how your team bounced back Tuesday night against Providence.
I think that's a good synopsis, and the 2 games, you know, people were talking about South Florida like they weren't even a team. They leave us and go to Louisville and lose by 11 down there. And our worst game of the year was St. John's. There's no question about that. I think we were tired, leg-weary, mentally weary. And then the bounce back against Providence, where Providence played great, we played great, and it just eked out in their favor at the end, but it was a terrific college basketball game.
And the thing that you guys kept doing is showing heart time and time again, coming back. Every time it looked like you were down, all of a sudden you made a run to get right back in it.
They're a powerful offensive team, and they can put numbers on the board with from a lot of different positions, and as a result of that, coming back, as you mentioned, is very important, and I think Billett and his penetration did that most of the time for us.
Well, let's take a look at some of the highlights from the game on Tuesday night. It was a game where Providence and Pete Gillen's team came out and got out early, shooting some terrific early on, 9 out of their first 13, and Ruben Garces got them going from the outside as well as from the inside.
They did, and you know, they pushed the ball down on us very fast, and we opened man-to-man. We tried to throw them off a little bit, but it didn't throw them off at all. This type of play here was very characteristic of the first half, with Shamgod penetrating and dishing to people. We stayed with them because we played good offense, and that's really the only reason. Our defense was not strong in the first half. We made some adjustments later on in the game and took away their penetration. And when we took away their penetration, we kept going to the boards like here with Eric Clark, and that's what made it such a close game.
And you got a good game out of Clark, not only the 10 points, 8 rebounds, 2 block shots. You got some presence from him on the inside.
We do. And there's Derek Brown shooting, and he ultimately was the victor in this game because he made a shot late. But here we're trying to spread them out a little bit and trying to go one-on-one and spread the floor, leave a lane for Earl, and there you can see a classic move by Earl Johnson.
Great move with the basketball, cut the lead to 4 at the half, and then again Providence made a little stretch, a little spurt to start the second, and Jamel Thomas played terrific in the second half.
He really did. He had 17 points, I believe, in the second half, and the problem was we had Rob Hodgson with 3 fouls, so I didn't start him in the second half. We got off to a bad start defensively, but as you can see from this, we kept hanging in and kept hanging in. Jamel Thomas hits a shot here. We're a little late getting our hand up with Earl Johnson, and he got a bunch of points right at the start of the second half.
And then big play here, Rob Hodgson, who was very aggressive in the first half, aggressive here, but picked up his 5th foul.
I was angry with this call because I felt Crochet was standing underneath the basket, and the ball was out of his hand when the collision happened anyway. I thought the basket should have counted. But we kept on, and McCrimmon gave us a big lift.
off the bench, and anytime he's active and can get involved, he's a big help for you.
He had 17 rebounds against Syracuse last year, and of course he had the stress fracture this year, and he's come back slowly from that. And his best game was against Providence, and if he can keep giving us some little shots off the bench like that, that's going to help.
And that was the huge three that tied it up at 71, and then Derek Brown answers right back. Tough three to put him back ahead.
It was a tough three, and of course this free throw just seals it, but we even knocked him down. Looking at the tape afterwards, I think we fouled Derek Brown, but they had a terrific game.
Yeah, and talk about terrific games. Jeff Billett matching his season high with 22 points. You got 4 guys in double figures, as you said. Your offense very good, but PC coming up with some big performances, especially by Brown with the 23.
Yeah, and Brown and Crozier and Thomas really hurt us, and those are the guys that hurt everybody they play. And we didn't have enough defensive firepower to slow them down enough. But we had stalled out the week, and I felt it was necessary for us to push the ball a little bit more, get a lot more in the break, and I think we did that.
Well, talk about getting into the break, the guy that leads it all the time for you, Jeff Billett. He did a great job of pushing the ball up the floor once again, getting you guys out into transition.
Well, he really did, and we need for him to score, and we need for him to get to the paint a little bit more than he'd been getting in the past. He was going a little bit on the arc all the time, and we needed for him to penetrate a little bit, and that got Sham got in foul trouble, and also Corey Wright in foul trouble.
We'll take a look here at Jeff Billett, as you said, a game-high 22 the other day, and he does so many things for your team, and as you said, one of the keys, anytime he can get some dribble penetration into the lane, good things happen.
He comes off a curl on this play, so we're going to see a lot of different kind of shots. Here's a three right in Corey Wright's face, and he feels comfortable with Wright because Wright's a small player. A lot of times people put big guys on Jeff, and they can play a step off him. Here he gets a rebound, and he penetrates down the floor like we were speaking about before, and we need this. And this is the kind of action that we need, getting the ball, getting some easy shots.
And great decision by your point guard out in the flow, and anytime he can knock down threes to match it, he's a tough matchup for people.
Well, he's a tough competitor, and I think he's getting better. And I think his free throw shooting is a topic of conversation, and he's certainly not in the top 1 or 2 in the league this year, but he's still in the top 10. And when he misses a free throw, it almost feels like the building's going to fall down.
Now you see here the dribble penetration for the 3, and then a big 2 points there to cut it down to 2 late in the game, as we said. Matched his season high with 22 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds. Terrific performance, gutty performance by he and the rest of the team.
Very gutty. He was injured late in the game, had a cramp in his right calf, and stayed with it, all during the 20-second timeouts and the normal timeouts. We got some Flexall on him and tried to get him so that that leg wouldn't cramp up completely for him.
And you see the season totals there, leads the team in scoring and assists as well as minutes played. And he's been everything that you could have asked for last year, all-rookie team performance, and coming back with a terrific sophomore season here as well.
And Rob, not only that, not only his play on the floor, but the way he represents our school. You couldn't want a more perfect guy to represent Rutgers University, or any university for that matter. And he does it on the floor, he does it off the floor. He is a spokesman for our team in tough times, and always has a nice word to say about the opposition as well as his teammates. He is a true character player, and one you'd like to have everyone like that.
Well, not only do the Rutgers fans appreciate the play of Jeff Billett, but the Rutgers players as well appreciate the rack and the type of atmosphere that it has. And we're going to talk about that a little bit and have a little bit of a tease for you when we come back right after this. Welcome back to the Rutgers Basketball Weekly. I'm Rob Kennedy along with Coach Bob Wenzel. And Coach, we talked about it before. You guys earlier this week probably had your worst performance of the year, and really an aberration, not really a good indication of your team against St. John's.
I think that, you're not going to play great all the time. You're not going to obviously win all the time with a young group like ours, but The St. John's game was an aberration. And that night, Miami also got beat by 20 on the road. So these things happen to every team, and I know it hurt us when we played that way. And I think the fatigue factor was involved, and you don't use that before the game, but after the game, I think when you analyze things, I think you can see that. And the big thing is what happens in the next game, and as we've already seen in Providence, the team bounced back well.
Let's take a look at some of those highlights from the St. John's game. As you said, fatigue a factor. You guys coming off your third game in 5 days. You and Fran Frischella's team get at it, and all of a sudden, early on, it was Jeff Billett who ended up leading the team again with 13 points.
Yeah, he did, and you know, I mean, I'm surprised that our producer could find highlights, frankly, in this game. And you know, I mean, we probably should show lowlights, all the layups we missed in the game. But the talented St. John's team, and I think the story for them has always been Hamilton and Lopez. Here we get a nice little dunk by Earl, but we didn't have much of that in the game. And you know, those two, last time we played, it was a low-scoring game, and we won against St. John's, and we've played them 3 times since we've been in the league and beaten them 2 out of 3. But certainly this night, that play is characteristic of the game for them. They pushed it down on us. We weren't able to keep the game in a half-court game, and their athleticism really hurt us.
Yeah, Felipe Lopez with one of his best performances on the season, ended up being named Rookie of the Week in the league, and it was Colin Charles who got them out in transition and got them up and down the floor. And good hustle throughout by Zendon Hamilton as well.
I think so. You know, I mean, our team hustled too. I mean, there's no give up in the kids. It's just a matter of converting some shots. And with St. John's, they're a talented team, and the first time we played them, we kept Lopez and Hamilton both in single figures, and they came back and remedied that situation for themselves in this game.
Well, it was a big win for St. John's, but as you said, key was how your team was going to bounce back. Take a look there. Lopez with the 21 points and 8 rebounds. One of the bright signs for you guys was Sammy Sanders, the freshman, with 8 points, 9 rebounds, 5 steals. Good all-around floor game from Sammy.
He had come back from the Miami. We had about 30 people at the Miami game, and we lost that game by 3 points, and he did not play well. And he is an effervescent type person, and he needed to be patted on the back and told that he's still terrific. And he came and played well against St. John's as well as anybody on our team that night. And he did the same thing against Providence. He's a high-energy guy, and I'm looking for great things from him as his career develops, not only this year but in the future.
Well, as we said, it was the end of a 4-game homestand, a homestand in the RAC, a team that people throughout the league understand one of the toughest places to play in all of the Big East.
I said this coming in last year, and we won by 19 here, 18 here last year with a tremendous, tremendous team. And I still say this is one of the toughest places to play.
You know, I don't care if we're number 1 in the country. If they want to run on the court, I have enthusiasm. I think that just means they're into the game, and you know, I think it's great. It's fun. That's what college basketball is about. That's what's different than a pro game. You know, it's a different atmosphere, and if you can have that atmosphere every game, I mean, that'd be great.
I love the fans. The fans is great. They always get behind us. I mean, they're like during the Georgetown game and the Connecticut game, even they was roaring, and I mean that makes us play that whole lot better.
Shot. That was one of the toughest shots in a game of basketball.
The RAC is a great place to play. I sometimes see it as a 6-man because the crowd, even though you know the game might not be a sellout, but it feels like it is.
Billett for 3, good. Big basket by Billett. Nice ball control and good job by Johnson to kick it out. The threes have been big for Rutgers.
Playing at the RAC, it's the bomb. I mean, it's the best, but we got the best fans in the nation. I mean, we get rowdy in here. They get on the refs when they need to. I mean, they pick us up. You know, offense or defense, it doesn't matter. I mean, the fans, they with us, and we need that too. And that's one of the reasons why I signed to go here when I came to that Villanova game and see how the fans are. So we got the best fans in the country, if you ask me.
RAC's our building. You know, we want to try to make it, you know, our advantage. We want it to get to the point where we know when we have home games, you know, we want to feel that we can get a win every time.
Oh yeah, RAC's a great place. I mean, you know, we've played in almost all the arenas in the Big East, and I think it's definitely got to be in the top 3. It just is atmosphere, the crowd getting behind you, and it's just a loud place, and you know, the crowd's really enthusiastic, and just a great place to play a game, especially for us.
Well, the RAC certainly has been a very good home court advantage for Rutgers over the years, winning 73% of their games at home. And again, this year, Coach, you guys are 9-5, and you have one more big home game coming out, already sold out, against Villanova.
Yeah, the Villanova game I'm really looking forward to that game because they pasted us pretty good down at their place, and I think everybody realizes they're the most talented team in the league, and we're gonna play well in that game. And being at the last game of the year and right before the Big East Tournament, I mean, it's going to really be festive that day.
All right, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at Bob Wenzel off the basketball court as you get to see a little bit of a different side of Coach. All that and more when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Rutgers Basketball Weekly. I'm Rob Kennedy along with Coach Bob Wenzel. And Coach, you know, when you talk about Rutgers basketball, it's more than just what you see on the floor. There's a number of different programs that you and your players are involved in that impact the community around as well.
Well, there is, and you know, you do all kinds of things. The Coaches versus Cancer thing is big, and it's big nationally. People donate money. The money is used, it's called the 3-point attack, and the money is used in the local area for the people in the local area that have cancer. And we're happy to be part of that. Every school, virtually every school in the United States is involved in that program. People donate money according to the number of threes that you make. In our, if we were a better rebounding team, we could do it by the number of rebounds. But since we're a 3-point shooting team, we use that avenue. And it's been very good, and we've got a lot of generous donations this year.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where people can donate any amount that they want, and we have the telephone right here if people want to call in and get some information about the Coaches versus Cancer. As you said, it's a nationwide program, but most of the money stays here within New Jersey, and that number is 1-800-345-TEAM. Become part of the team as the Rutgers University basketball team helps to try and fight cancer here in the New Jersey region.
And it's good. It kind of dovetails with Jimmy V being a Rutgers graduate and the V Foundation for Cancer. And all of these programs are designed to help in some way, shape, or form. And the money that is raised at Rutgers and Seton Hall and Princeton and the schools, Monmouth, and everybody else in New Jersey stays in New Jersey for the citizens of our state.
And as you mentioned, obviously, Jimmy Valvano, a Rutgers alum, also a guy who you knew well, having played for him on the freshman level. So this is something that obviously is close to heart with you as well.
I think it is, and with me personally, but I think it's a disease that seems to have touched everyone in some way, shape, or form, either someone you know, someone that knows you, someone in your profession or in your area, and I think it's been very heartwarming, the kind of response that we've generated this year for it.
Well, it's a great thing to see. And we started to touch on there that the fact that you played for Coach Valvano on the freshman team here at Rutgers. Sometimes people forget that Bob Wenzel, a terrific player here for the Scarlet Knights, and how much influence did Jimmy V and also Bill Foster, your coach on the varsity level, have on you with your decision to get into the coaching profession?
I think a great deal. And Foster and Valvano. Valvano was just a kid himself when he coached me, and his famous story about the Green Bay Packers and busting through the door. I was sitting in the room when he made that speech that he talked about on the ESPY Awards. And Foster, of course, was a great influence, and they brought me to the ACC, where that's really where I formulated most of the things, and battling against the North Carolinas and North Carolina States of the world, I think, really helped formulate most things that I've used in my coaching career.
For those of you whose memory might not be that good or can't remember back then, we have a photo to show you of Coach Wenzel back in his playing days. There you go, Coach. A little sideburns, floppy do.
Yeah. The white guys had the long sideburns, and the black guys had the high hair, and it was a time of unrest in our country. You know, when I was in school, The Vietnam War was in full swing, and people were being drafted, and all kinds of political unrest going on campus. And it was a very instructive time for students and athletes as well. And to focus on what you were doing on the floor was very important, obviously, and I did that, and the rest of our team did it as well. But it was an interesting time to be part of college scene.
Well, two-time MVP for the Scarlet Knights, Bob Wenzel, as the player. We also remember Bob Wenzel as the coach, and the coach is going to take a look ahead at two upcoming games at Syracuse and at Georgetown, two tough road contests in the Big East when we come back. Rutgers Basketball Weekly, I'm Rob Kennedy along with Coach Bob Wenzel. And as we mentioned, Coach, two tough road games coming up, starting with Syracuse, a team that's playing very well in a stretch drive for the NCAA tournament, back-to-back overtime wins.
Yes, against West Virginia and against Connecticut at home and at the Carrier Dome. We've played there once with Rutgers since being in the Big East. I've played there several times, and Otis Hill here obviously is a big part of their game. He has been in foul trouble a lot this year. Terrific perimeter shooting with Janilis. Here we see Otis inside, and here's Janilis on the outside. Sapola and Todd Bergen. I think part of the reason their record isn't as great as it usually is because Bergen was out for 7 games, at which time teams beat them, and he's back now and he's in full swing.
Yeah, and when they knock down threes, you see Jason Hart, the freshman point guard, doing it here. Sapola with 27 the other night against UConn. When they can stretch out to 3, it makes it difficult to defend. And
it's tough for us because we're, a lot of zone this year. And as a result, there's going to be a lot of threes in this game from both teams. They play primarily 2-3 zone, and they may come after us man-to-man. We haven't seen a lot of zone this year, at times with different teams, but mostly it's been man-to-man, people trying to push up on our guards. And it'll be interesting to see how Syracuse does it. I suspect we'll see some of both, but what we've got to do is prepare for the zone because we haven't seen it quite so much.
All right, and we said 2 tough road games, the second one down at Georgetown, a team that you guys handled fairly easily, as you said, seems like a year ago back in December. Nice win at home.
It was a great victory for us, a inspiring time, a festive time, a celebration, and here, characteristic Georgetown, double teaming. You got to be able to get out of those double teams and make them pay for it. And we did in this game. Another double team situation here with Earl handling the ball very well and getting it out to Jeff. He goes coast to coast on them. And you need that kind of fire. Of course, playing at their arena is going to be a little bit different. And Victor Page, of course, is a top-notch guy in the league.
Yeah, the leading scorer in the league. One of the keys to your victory is you held him scoreless until late into the second half.
Yes, we did, and I don't know whether we did it or he did it himself, but we were able to keep him scoreless until late. Offensive rebounding, big part of the game of Georgetown. Victor Page doing all kinds of things. I mean, he'll have the ball a lot. He'll force shots. He'll take what people perceive as bad shots. But in their scheme of things, it's okay, because a bad shot by him is like a pass, and he's passing it to the backboard, and that's where they want to go get it.
All right, Coach. Well, thanks for having me here as a little bit of a fill-in. Good luck on those 2 road games. For Bob Wenzel, I'm Rob Kennedy saying so long, everybody.
It's an afternoon game as well. Scarlet Knights are seated 13th in the tournament. This week, Coach Bob Wenzel says he's tried everything to get his underdog team ready to play.
And in the position that we're in, anything can happen. We look at Fairfield and we see what happened there, and we give players illustrations of upsets that have happened in the past to let them know that that's possible. We show them films of our Providence games to let them know we played them to the last 20 seconds both times.
Still, Providence remains one of those teams in the Big East that Rutgers couldn't beat this season. Now it's tournament time. One loss and you go home. And in Rutgers' case, it may be for good, with no chance of postseason play.
Just have to come out tomorrow and play a good game. We have to play hard and know that if we do lose, we're done, and we can't, no other games to look forward to.
I want to stay out there till Saturday, and I don't want to come back and be back here doing nothing, because that's the end of the season. So my motivation is to just stay on the floor, stay right out the Garden. If I got to sleep there at half court, as long as we win, I'd just rather stay there.
The kids have stayed competitive. They've stayed with it. They're a delight in practice. So we're looking at the positive side. There's no other way to look at it. You try to look up.
Don't think you'll have to sleep on the court, though. The Northeast Conference Championship game is...
And try to, this year help out guys like Earl or Terry or other first-year players, and just try to, make things easier for them with the experience I have. So I try to see myself as a leader. I try to, help the guys out. And, I think as I get older, I think I become even more of a leader for the team.
I remember a point early in the year, Bob, when you made a little bit of an adjustment. You put the ball more in Billett's hands to set up Earl Johnson, and he just accepted that as a way to make the team better.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he's a very coachable young man, as you might expect, and he's the characteristic on the court that separates him from. He's just so competitive, and no matter what, whether the guy's bigger than him or smaller than him, especially in the last two games against Georgetown and Villanova, the more athletic and bigger teams in the league, he has shown what he can do. I mean, he's just shining brightly right now.
And he's not afraid to take the big shot when the game is on the line. Maybe sometimes he finds Earl because Earl makes the last shot, but he's not afraid to go to the hoop, draw the foul, or pull up for the three.
No, he really isn't. And recently it's been even better, and he's going to get better and better the older he gets.
From the coach of the Scarlet Knights to the voice of the Scarlet Knights, we'll talk to Bruce Johnson when we return to Rutgers Basketball Weekly. Stay with us. Joining us now, the voice of the Scarlet Knights on WOR Radio, Bruce Johnson. And Bruce, a pleasure to have you with us.
Good to be here.
It has been a year of buzzer beaters for the Scarlet Knights, and it's been exciting.
It has been a great year in terms of end games, in terms of games going down to the wire. Obviously, the game at West Virginia, RU down by 4 late, getting a 3-point field goal by Jeff Billett, and that game-winning 3-point field goal by Earl Johnson. And then the game at St. John's at the Garden, down by 1 late. Billett gets it off left wing to Earl, hits a 3-pointer off the rim. Then coming back to beat Miami when Miami was hot, beating Miami at the rack by 1 point, and on and on. It's been a great year.
Chance for you to give us some superlatives to end up the season. First of all, who's your most improved Rutgers player?
Well, in my mind, it would be sophomore Rob Hodson. Had a pretty good year a year ago, but was coming off the 1-year layoff after transferring from Indiana. Had moments last year, but this year much more consistent, shooting the ball well, going to the hoop better, and now coming off back-to-back 19-point games, which is a career high in each instance at Georgetown and a home to Villanova. But a very consistent year for Rob Hodson.
And like you say, when he goes to the basket and he's aggressive, he seems to be a better player.
Yeah, what he did, he made a conscientious effort to go down low, to get the ball on the wing or get the ball off the lane and back in, turn around, drive in the lane, and it's worked well.
Bruce, Big East overall, some people said it may have been down a little bit. I think a lot of guys graduated. It was a very young league. Your perspective on the Big East?
Well, no doubt. RU came in with the league with Georgetown, with Allen Iverson. Connecticut had Ray Allen. Syracuse had John Wallace. And the league had to be down, losing people like that. In my mind, the league was down relatively. But as the year moved along, the new names came in. Victor Page at Georgetown, Austin Crozier at Providence, and the influx of freshmen, Earl Johnson of RU, the people up at Connecticut, Rick Hamilton and Jake Voskuhl, and Ed Sheffy down at Georgetown. So a lot of people left, but the new infusion of talent really kind of evened out.
All right, that leads me to my next question. Player of the year in the Big East.
Wide open. A year ago, Ray Allen won it. This year, no clear-cut favorite. A lot of people felt Alvin Williams of Villanova, including head coach Bob Wenzel. Many people felt Victor Page of Georgetown, who has gotten hot as of late. In my mind, the one guy who has had a good year from start to finish would be Austin Crozier of Providence. But, you know, you could pick a lot of people this year.
What do you like about Austin?
Well, he is an NBA-type player. He's got the size. He can shoot the jumper outside. He can go down low. And he leads the league in foul shooting at a brilliant 90%, which gets the job done. I think his overall game and his overall consistency would make him my number one.
Rutgers did a pretty good job on him the first time up at Providence. They kept him off the boards until the last minute or so when he got a couple of offensive rebounds.
But what he can do, much like a Victor Page, you know, you've got to play Crozier 40 minutes. You may shut him down 35, but he is always dangerous and can hit that three-point bucket. And, of course, if you foul him, he'll go to the line where he's automatic.
All right, if you had to pick a rookie of the year in the league, would it be that guy from down at Villanova?
It would. At one point, many people felt Shaheen Holloway of Seton Hall was actually having a better year than Tim Thomas of Villanova. But Shaheen kind of hit a wall, kind of backed off a bit, and Thomas has kept on coming, had 24 in the game against RU back on Saturday. So overall, Tim Thomas would be the guy.
Rutgers against Providence in the opening round of the tournament. Not a bad matchup for the Scarlet Knights.
No, Rutgers went up to Providence and took it right down to the wire. Providence came here. Rutgers took it right down to the wire. Unfortunately, lost in both games, but Rutgers knows it can play Providence. You'll be on a neutral court at the Garden, and it's tournament time. Who knows what can happen?
Well, let's put you on the spot for a moment. And who do you think is the team to beat in this tournament? Who do you think is going to win it?
If I don't pick Rutgers...
You're not allowed to pick Rutgers.
I would think, and not to be predictable, I would like Villanova. Villanova's got Alvin Williams playing at a very high level. They've got the big guy inside in Lawson. They've got Thomas. They've got a great supporting cast, and they appear to have the most balance on the floor. But don't count out Georgetown with the hot hand of Victor Page and the rebounding ability of Yaya Ja and Jahidi White. So Georgetown could be there, but I think Villanova will win it.
Bruce Johnson, thanks for joining us. We hope you get to call more than one game in that Big East tournament. A couple or three would be nice.
I'll take it.
All right, we'll take a short break. Come back with more on Rutgers Basketball Weekly in just a moment. All right, so it's Rutgers against Providence as things get underway in the Big East tournament. And Bob, both games were close. Let's start with the first ball game up at the Providence Civic Center. You end up losing at 73-67, but it was close down the stretch, and it was a well-played game.
It was an excellent played game by both teams. Earl was out in the first half with fouls. We switched defenses, took away the penetration of Shamgod, and we played an excellent game up there.
This ball game was played on February 5th. And as we mentioned throughout, there were some big performances. It was tight throughout. Here they are, Providence, kicking it out for a three and getting one early.
That's what they want. They want penetration and then dish. They've got excellent outside shooters in Crozier, Jamel Thomas, and Derek Brown. Here we have a shootout between Hodgson and Crozier. Both of them played very, very well in this game, and we're playing a little bit better now than we were then.
Hodgson had 14 in the game. Crozier had 24, including 5 for 7 from downtown. But I thought you did a very good job in this game of keeping Crozier off the offensive board.
We did until late. And what happened late in this game is we were zoned, and we wanted to take away the three-point shot because we had the lead. Derek Brown made a three. Crunch time, we went man-to-man. He got an offensive rebound, laid it back in, and gave them a little margin.
Shamgod had 7 assists for them. It's important to try to keep him under control.
At the beginning of the second game at the rack, he came right into the paint and dished off to Garces and made a lot of easy plays. We started the game man-to-man to try to throw them off. Didn't work very well. We went back to our zone defenses, and that really helped us a great deal. In this game, there's a typical penetration by Shamgod, and that's what we've got to keep them away from. In this game, we closed down, became more compact. Jeff played great, knocking in this three from way, way deep. And those are the kind of plays that we're going to have. When it came down to it at the end, Sam Sanders made a three to tie it. Rob Hodgson here getting inside on them. And when you think of the 3 games we've played Providence since we've been in the Big East, they've all been very, very similar. Providence has eked out wins against Rutgers in all 3 of those games. This year, obviously, they have a great deal of senior talent on their team, and that bodes well for them in the tournament in terms of their experience. What we've got to do is play to our level, and then just make a shot or two at the end and keep them off the boards right in the last 20 seconds.
Easier said than done. All right, let's take a look at what is upcoming in the Big East Tournament beginning on Wednesday when all the action unfolds in the late morning at 11 a.m. Notre Dame takes on Syracuse first.
Notre Dame beat Syracuse twice during the year, but Bergen didn't play. He's back now.
Rutgers-Providence, we talked about it earlier. Bob wants a different result this time around.
Yes, close but no cigar in the last two, but what we want to do is change that around.
Seton Hall in West Virginia in 3:30.
Well, West Virginia killed Seton Hall out at West Virginia, and then they also beat them at the Meadowlands by about 9 points. But you never can tell what's going to happen. West Virginia has to travel.
St. John's, Miami, a good matchup, but it's at the Garden, remember?
It really is, and St. John's obviously has an advantage anytime that the Big East Tournament is played because it's on their home turf.
Pitt and UConn to complete that first day of action.
Well, that's, you know, the youth of Connecticut is hurting them, and that's why they're the 11th seed this year. Pittsburgh is coming on, has had some great wins, and they're a well-balanced team.
Bob, of those 5 ball games, it's hard to believe, but everyone swept the other guy.
It's unbelievable. When I didn't even realize that until you told me before the show, and that's a phenomenal statistic to see that all of those teams swept the other teams, and of course there were a lot of close games in those games.
Sometimes they say it's tough to beat a team 3 times in a season. We'll find out at the Big East Tournament. Now they play continuous quarterfinal action on Thursday. Syracuse Notre Dame takes on #1 Nova. Providence Rutgers takes on the winner of West Virginia and Seton Hall. And Bob, not a bad run for you if you can get through that first ball game.
Both of our games are on ESPN, and one at 1 o'clock and one at 2 o'clock. And the good thing for us in that situation is that we don't have to play one of the 3 seeds, the top 3 seeds in our second game. If we get by Providence, we're able to play a team that we've played either beaten or played well.
Friday, the semifinals, #1 at 7, #2 at 9, and the championship game at 8 p.m. on Saturday. So that's the way the tournament shakes out, and anyone has a shot right now. Now, we want to mention that it's been a lot of fun here on the Rutgers Basketball Weekly, and for Coach Bob Wenzel and some help from the ladies. We've got a great cake. Coach, it says thanks for a great season. What do you think?
Well, I can't believe that thank you, ladies, for coming by and doing that. Oh, thank you. It's nice to see you guys always. And to be with an ugly guy like this all year and have these beautiful ladies at the end of the show is very nice for me.
Lydia, Giselle, and Tara, thank you so much for coming by. And Coach Bob Wenzel, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Bruce. It's a wonderful cake. We'll give it to the team at practice today.
Sounds good. Make sure it's after practice. All right, we'll close things out with a look at some of the highlights of the 96-97 season.
Zone today. Look out, Pete Gillen. You've got to score. Even though he had points in the paint last time, Rutgers beat West Virginia with a 2-3 zone. These games aren't over yet.
Great guard play is what March is all about. Rutgers is a very solid backcourt led by Billett, and Seton Hall may have the best backcourt in the Big East with Lavelle Sanders and Shaheen Holloway. But can they do enough to stop Austin Crozier and the Friars? Big East game #2. Rutgers and Providence is coming up. We'll get you ready with much more as we continue on Championship Week. On the Rutgers Scarlet Knights in about 20 minutes for the 3rd game down there, and that will be the Seton Hall Pirates in the 12th seed as they try to pull the upset against West Virginia. Now, do you think Providence is in the tournament?
Well, I think it stops the bleeding right now. Of course, they lost 3 in a row, and that makes a lot of things change for Pete Gillen, but the shutdown game is going to have.
Bottom line is the question in this matchup is Bob Wenzel going to come back as a coach? I know one thing, Mike. I told you earlier today. I begged Fred Gruninger. I wanted a job, Digger, for $11,000 when I was the assistant there in '73.
For too much
I said $11,000. That's what he said.
Yeah, that was. You were worth about 6.
I said, give me $11,000 and I'll take the job, Fred. I'll tell you one thing now. He's not going to get a coach down here for $11,000.
And think if Dick would have had that job and been successful.
National champs.
Would he be here with us now?
No.
Then you'd have time to talk.
Uh-oh.
Scores and highlights. Louisville's in some trouble. Stay with us as Championship Week continues.
Were just too much for Rutgers as the Scarlet Knights ended their season on a very low note.
The Knights were only able to muster 34% shooting from the field, while the Friars shot 55%.
They're an extremely experienced team with a whole bunch of seniors, and we're not. And we played them very well the first 2 times. Both games went to the last 20 seconds before the game was decided, and this time they played better. And I think you just have to give credit to Providence.
However, the big story surrounding the Rutgers game was the reports concerning head coach Bob Wenzel. The speculation that this was Wenzel's last game as the head coach of the Scarlet Knights and that a decision on his future may come within the next 48 hours.
It's a tough, vicious business because it could be me someday. It could be me, you know, next year, next week, 2 years, 3 years. So it's, you know, I feel badly. I don't know what's going to happen, but it doesn't look good right now. And he's a wonderful guy. It's just a tough, tough business.
You know, we're together here as a team. You know, we've been together the whole year, right behind Coach. Coach has, you know, supported us. We support Coach. You know, and that's our unit. You know, everything else, you know, as far as, you know, a lot of talk in the media and in the newspapers, you know, on TV, you know, that's on the periphery. You know, and I think one thing about, you know, Coach did a real good job this year of being positive and focusing in on the team and keeping it all together.
Coach, you mentioned this team will be a better team next year. Will Bob Wenzel be here next year?
Well, we'll see.
In the finale of the afternoon session, the West Virginia Mountaineers, probably the hottest team in the Big East Conference, continued to smoke on.
Bob Wenzel has indeed been fired. Rutgers finished 11-16 this year. Losing yesterday in the first round of the Big East Tournament, Wenzel posted 5 consecutive losing seasons in his time in New Brunswick.
March not only means in or out for a whole host of teams.
On Providence today.
Madison Square Garden, a team that beat them twice. We're still having a committee discussion. They're at the break here. Let's talk about the Atlantic 10, which still has some unanswered issue today. Some news at Rutgers. Bob Wenzel has been let go after 9 seasons there. 4 postseason tournaments, but none since '92 for Wenzel.
Well, you talk about Bob Wenzel. He got fired this morning. We learned that he was fired this morning by the Rutgers athletic director, Fred Gruninger. And it just shows again, in terms of what's happening in college basketball, the mentality is instant gratification. So many middle major college coaches are now resigning or were forced to resign and been fired. The George Masons, the American universities, because everybody wants that instant trip to the big dance. Everybody wants money. All these presidents, they talk about academics and bringing academic sanity to the campus, but really a message they're sending to their coaches: you better win, baby. If you don't win and you don't adopt the message of Mr. Davis with the Oakland Raiders, is pack your bags, you're out. So I don't want to hear all of that talk about academics when they're firing. I could go on and on about this. It aggravates me. Innocent, good, hard-working people are given the exit. It bothers me.
I don't doubt that. You once begged for the Rutgers job. It's open.
11,000. I was going to take it. 11,000. He can't get me for 11 anymore, baby, Mr. Gruninger. I begged him.
You don't do a 5-minute speech for $11,000,
and I begged him.
Dick.
I begged him. I said, please give me the Rutgers job when I was assistant.
Nothing. So before Central and North Jersey fans start clamoring for a big-name coach, and I've heard a lot of those tossed around, at big-name dollars, remember that name, Bill Herrian. I mean, frankly, I'd like to have him stay in Philly. He's good for college hoops in the city. But if turning around a Big East program is a shot for him, I wish him luck in getting it. P.S. Am I the only non-Villanova alum who's pulling for the Wildcats in this Big East tournament? No.
Coach Bob Wenzel, 5 years, record 57-80. Big East tonight, Georgetown beat Miami and beat
Garden as expected. Rutgers fired basketball coach Bob Wenzel after 5 straight losing seasons. Meantime, second seed Georgetown versus Miami.
It's great because look, nobody. I don't want to wake up.
Yeah, victory is theirs. Now to the Big East. First, Rutgers has fired their head coach Bob Wenzel following his 5th straight losing season. Tonight on the tournament hardwood, Boston College leads Pitt 76-60.
Coaching ranks. First of all, as we reported to you here earlier tonight, MSG Sports Desk has learned that recently fired UCLA basketball. He should take the vacant Rutgers job if it's been offered to him. Also, Tennessee's Kevin O'Neal, after just
deserved a better fate in the first round. A few exits down the New Jersey Turnpike from Seton Hall, Rutgers is also looking for a new basketball coach, having fired Bob Wenzel last week. South Carolina's Eddie Fogler, George Washington's Mike Jarvis, Drexel's Bill Herrian have all been mentioned, but the front runner now is Tulane's Perry Clark. With a lot of seniors leaving his team this year, having just missed the NCAA tournament, Clark may be looking to make a move. And if that move is to the Big East, to a state school with a lot of potential, and the money is great, which apparently it is, Clark may very well be willing to move to Rutgers, and Rutgers apparently would love to have him. If Dean Smith does
with the Scarlet Knights, he has been the coach there for the past 9 years. Now, Mike McGee added, all we've done is granted permission. I also believe that Coach Fogler will be coach here until he retires. Fogler has a 5-year rollover contract that renews itself.
Coors Light MSG Sports Desk. MSG Network has learned exclusively tonight that Rutgers will offer its head basketball coaching job to Billy Harrion of Drexel in Philadelphia. Now, terms have not yet been ironed out. The two sides will talk later on this week. But Harrion will accept the position. He's at the Final Four in Indianapolis and wants to meet with his team first to tell them he is leaving for Rutgers. This after Tom Penders became the latest head coach to turn down the position. Penders made his announcement today that he'll accept less money to stay at Texas.
The time might be right to make a move, and Rutgers would be the perfect move if I were to leave Texas. I'm announcing today that I'm retiring effective April 1, year 2010, if I'm still able to walk to the podium.
Also today, Georgia State named ageless lefty Giselle.
Bring the soul to the home.
When Cooper Tire asked me to be their spokesman.
It's happening in odd places. The coaching hunt at Rutgers is still on and has apparently moved to Indianapolis, scene of the NCAA Final Four. That's where Drexel head coach Bill Harrion and Rutgers athletic director Fred Gruninger are meeting now. Sources tell NJN News an announcement could come early next week. Texas coach Tom Penders turned down an opportunity yesterday to become the next coach at Rutgers, saying it was a tough decision after visiting the campus this week. That brings Harrion to the top of the list. He currently lives in Mount Laurel and has been at Drexel since 1991, compiling a record of 137 wins against 47 losses, along with 3 trips to the NCAA tournament in the last 4 years. New Jersey Nets coach John Calipari says he won't contest a $25,000 fine levied against him